So today I will be presenting my presentation on mumps. So first, what is mumps? So mumps is a viral infection that is caused by the mumps virus. The mumps virus is a paramyxovirus of the Ribula virus genus. The mumps virus has been around for a long time, and it has have descriptions of its symptoms dating all the way back to the 5th century BC. From a Greek philosopher known as Hippocrates. In 1934, it was discovered by Claude D. Johnson and Ernest W. Goodpasture that the virus that causes mumps is found in saliva. So what are some of the symptoms from mumps? So obviously the swollen salivary glands. It can be either on one side or both sides of the face. It's more common on just the one side. A fever, headaches, muscle aches, weakness and or fatigue, the loss of appetite, and these symptoms are normally noticeable around 16 to 18 days after the infection, but it can range from 12 to 25 days. So how is it transmitted? So mumps can be transmitted in numerous ways. It is spread through direct contact with either saliva or respiratory droplets. So this means that these droplets can come from either the nose, the mouth, or the throat. So any actions that can transmit this disease might be like sneezing, coughing, talking, or even coming in contact with a water bottle with saliva on it. It can also be transmitted in like close quarters activities such as like big crowds, dancing, playing sports, or... So what is the treatment for this disease? So since mumps is a viral infection, antibiotics have no effect on the virus whatsoever. And for the treatment aspect of it, there's really almost no treatment for the virus whatsoever, and you must just let it take its course. So people normally recover in a few weeks after noticing symptoms, but you can also take pain relievers such as Tylenol to ease the pain, swelling, and fever. You can also avoid chewing and sour foods because of the salivary glands. And like pretty much all other diseases and viruses, you have to drink plenty of fluids. But if you were a child between the ages of 12 months or 12 years of age, the MMR vaccine provides immunity against measles, mumps, and rubella, and a lot of children are getting this virus, which is making the virus become more and more uncommon. So what is the progression of this virus? So it's similar to COVID-19, where some cases of mumps show no symptoms whatsoever, but it normally takes 2 to 3 weeks after the first exposure of the virus to show symptoms. So you have no symptoms for around 2 to 3 weeks after you've come in contact with the virus. Then there really isn't any progression. You are just bombarded with all the symptoms at the same time. As I previously mentioned, it can be like a fever, salivatory glands, loss of appetite, etc. And then from there, people normally recover within 2 weeks of the first sign of symptoms. So what is the prognosis of like other cases? So as mentioned, there's no treatment for mumps. Consequently, the prognosis is a little bit different. So normally mumps is quite mild, and the majority of people have the normal symptoms that are listed above. However, some cases can turn into a more serious matter. In the more rare cases, there can be numerous of serious complications, such as swelling of the reproductive organs in men, which takes place in about 20 to 30% of unvaccinated males, and only about 6 to 7% of vaccinated males who can contract the infection. For women who contract mumps, the risk is much smaller, with a less than 1% chance of having their reproductive organs swell. Swelling of the brain, swelling of the tissue that covers the brain, and spine, temporary or permanent loss of hearing occurs in less than 1% of the people that contract this virus. In recent mumps outbreaks in the United States, there has been no reported deaths as a result of mumps. However, it was a very low chance of being fatal before the recent times. So what is the immune response to mumps? The immune response is pretty standard. So in order for our body to fight off this disease, it starts off with a macrophage, quote unquote, eating the mumps virus. Subsequently, it displays the antigen. From there, a helper T cell will then attach itself to the macrophage. So on one side, the helper T will call in B cells, either plasma or memory cells. The plasma B cell shoots the antigens, in turn making them more visible to the macrophages. Finally, the macrophage engulfs the pathogen, as a result, killing it. On the other side is if the helper T calls in the killer T cells. This would happen if the virus got into cells. So the killer T's would attach itself onto the cells, which means that the killer T's would attach itself onto the cells, which means that they have been invaded by a pathogen. The killer T's then shoot perforin into the cells, killing it, and any mumps inside of the cell. So the one that deals with the plasma B and memory B cells on the left side is called humoral immunity, and the one that deals with killer T cells is called cell-mediated immunity. So mumps isn't as black and white as you may think. A common misunderstanding for this disease is that not all people understand that this disease isn't passed on by mosquitoes. Viruses like Zika virus and malaria being passed on by mosquitoes probably cause this. In addition, they probably haven't even looked up any facts on the internet, or if they have, they must have used an unreliable source. This misunderstanding can lead to many consequences for the world. If people believe that it is only transmissible by mosquitoes, then the only precaution people will take is wearing boatloads of bug repellent, and they will still be going out and living life in their normal way. This would simply result in the effortless spread of mumps. So thank you for listening to my presentation.